Hi everybody, I'm Sarah, owner and founder of Sarah Loves to Sew, and I'm here today to teach you how to make one of these, the infinity scarves. So this is the project for my November box for my beginner sewing box members. So they will get sent the kit, or you will get sent the kit at the end of November, and this is what we're going to be making. So it's a really nice, quick, easy make. They're really good to make for gifts for people in different fabrics. You can upcycle fabric if you've got some lovely bedding or pillowcase that you think, oh, I really like that fabric. You can use the same pattern and just create as many of these as you like, because they don't take that long at all. It's really useful. It's lightweight. It's made of a poplin, so it's not a stiff cotton, but it does hold its shape nicely. So let's get started. So this is what we're going to be making. It is literally a tube sewn together. So if you look in your kit, get your instructions out, get your fabric out, you'll have one piece of this lovely poplin fabric, and it will be 16 inches by 54. So fold it in half lengthways and line up one of the long edges. So you need to line it up, pin it all the way, and then sew it on your machine with a 2.5 stitch size of straight stitch. If you've got an overlocker, then this is really easy to just sew on the overlocker, and then you'll overlock the edges as well. If you don't have the overlocker, you can just zigzag the edges. So let's go and do that. So we're going to use 1.5 here on my marker. So you should have these little lines that help you keep a straight seam. Oh, I can't find my pedal, where is it? And we're just going to do, straight stitch with 2.5, and you're going to back tack a little bit at the beginning to secure the stitch, and then just keep that. So that's either 5/8 of an inch or 1.5 or 15 millimeters, 1.5 centimeters, and just try and stitch in a straight line, keeping that edge along your marker. So this is if you've got a sewing machine. Obviously if you've got the overlocker, then you can do this on the overlocker instead. But you basically do just guide it with your left hand and feeding it with the right. Just keep it really steady and off you go. Because of the nature of the scarf, it will be obviously sort of slightly scrunched when it's on the neck. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but this is a really good practice for sewing in straight lines, and also getting used to going maybe a little bit quicker with the pedal. You know, you can put your foot all the way down if you're confident. Very careful to take the pins out. We don't want a broken needle or the pins flying everywhere and the needle breaking. So once you've done this straight stitch, I would then go and change the stitch to zigzag and just tidy up the edges. It just means that, I mean, this is a really decent chunky seam allowance on this, but it just means that it will keep it from fraying when you put it in the washing machine. So there we go. When you get to the end, you just want to get rid of any loose sort of fraying threads there, and you can change the stitch to a zigzag stitch and then go back along, and this time we're going to zigzag. So I've got it on the same 2.5 with just the sort of one of the larger zigzags, and you don't have to get the zigzag off the edge, but just close to it, and this will just help keep the fraying at bay really. So yeah, go for it, get your paddle down. I mean, this is a super quick easy make, so you don't have to be exactly precise, but it's a really lovely way, I think, of wearing scarves to introduce a nice colour around the face. Obviously keep your neck slightly warmer as well, but it's not a tight, it's not a restrictive scarf. It's, you know, it wraps double with quite a gap on it. There we go. That is that step done. So then you should have nice seam with zigzag edges. Okay, so once you've got that lovely seam created, the next thing to do is to put your hand in one of the ends all the way down to the other side and hold on to the end and pull it through, so you're turning it completely to the right side. Now you need to put your hand back in, and this time we're going to grab the other end, but we're not going to turn it all the way out. We're going to take this bit and roll it up to this end. So we're just literally now turning it sort of half way round so that the right sides are together. Now, just to give the little scarf a little bit of a twist so that the seam doesn't run round in a complete sort of line, what's quite good now is, whilst you hold the end where the seam is on this side, take the seam on the top end and just give it a little twist. So you're moving it round halfway or thereabouts, doesn't have to be exact. It just means that you don't get this one long sort of ugly seam. It's kind of hidden within the scarf. And then you need to put a pin here where the seam is on the other side. So carefully take your hand out. Oops, it's caught on a thread. And get to pin. And what we're going to do is we'll be sewing these sides together. So if you put the pin in sideways like that, you can then remove the pin as you sew along. So there's a few stray threads here I haven't cut, so I'm just going to tidy those up a little bit, make it easier. Cut off that bit, that was a bit jagged. So the next step will be to sew the tube edges together, but bearing in mind we're not going to sew it closed like that. We're just going to pin these sides together, and then we will need to leave a turning gap, so you can either mark it so when you're sewing it doesn't get sewn up. I'll put these pens in the kit as well. If you just mark it on the wrong side on one of the black dots, you need to leave about sort of 4 inches turning. So I'm going to do it up to about there, so you won't sew that bit. You can pin it, keep it nice and neat, but you won't sew that because that's where we'll pull the scarf the correct way round, and then we'll just finish that off on the other side. So you just keep going round, pinning it in place, making sure you're not pinning the back, and we're so close to finishing this already. It really does not take long at all, and I think it's a really effective scarf. It's really easy. So I'm going to take this to the machine now. Make sure it's back on straight stitch because you'd have used zigzag on that last seam. So back to straight stitch at 2.5 size, and again leave a decent seam, so 15 millimeters or 5/8 of an inch there, and don't forget you're not sewing this bit that I've marked. So yeah, look out for those. Okay, let's go and do that. Okay, when I'm sewing sleeves or small sort of circular things like this, I take off this little section. So if you've got a removable one, do take that off, and then it just makes it easier to get the fabric close to the needle. So I've actually sort of inserted this, so it basically will stop me sewing the other side onto this. I won't sew it closed. So I'm going to just find where I put those markers. So one's there, so I'm going to start that's one. I'm just going to start at the other, about there, away from it. So we've got 1.5 centimetre seam allowance again, and you need to back tack to secure the stitches, and off you go, making sure take the pins out in plenty of time. And I'm just sort of guiding it, helps if this bit isn't twisted, guiding it with my 2 fingers on my right hand, and then just feeding it slightly there with the left. So here's one marker, so I'm going to stop here, do some back stitches, lift the needle, lift the foot, just work it round to the next marker, which is just here. So I'm going to sew the seam down with it. Whoops. And you need to back tack, secure those stitches, and continue all the way back round until you find where you start. And I always just go over them again just to secure them, and back, and there, we're done. So that sewing done. I'm going to take that pin out and just snip these. Now we can tidy up these edges with a zigzag as well. So it's the same thing again. I'm not going to tidy up the bit we haven't sewn because obviously we're keeping that gap open. So change it to your zigzag stitch, same stitch length, and you just want to get it as close to the edge as you can, and make sure you don't sew that opening closed. So a few back stitches, off you go. Back to the beginning, back stitches to finish, and then snip any loose threads, and then we can start to turn it around. So that gap that we've left open, we just need to find, and then you pull the scarf through that gap. And then pull it out of itself like that, and then you want to go back and find that little gap. So this is the final seam that we need to sew, and then our scarf is done. So I tend to find that the quickest way to do this is to pull, oops, there's the little thread that I hadn't cut. Just get rid of that and that. So if you pull it quite tight, and then it just needs a little finger press or a nail press along there, and then same with that one, making sure it's all nicely lined up, and finger press it. So if you want to be really quick with it, you could just do straight stitch along here, or if you want it to be hidden, you can do little hand stitches. So I quite like doing a little bit of hand stitching, so I'm just going to get my thread and do a little bit there. So I'll show you what stitch I use. Just get my needle and thread. So I will go in here, you see this, and leave a bit of a tail, and then I'll just go back in the same side and out the other side, and then I tie these with, I always do 1, 2, pull it tight, and then I do another 2, 1, 2, 2 separate ones, and I keep the tail for now. It might be a bit easier if we do pin it here, so you can see where it's already been pressed, but we will just keep that in place. And then I just go back in the side that I came out and just take the smallest little stitches that I can, so it's quite hidden as much as it can be. And then when it's obviously on your neck, it's sort of gathered and scrunched, so you won't notice it. And if you can find it, then obviously you could move it round to the inside back out of view. So you just want to carry on doing that all the way, tie it off at the end, so little stitches which will take you to the end. And then that is literally it for your infinity scarf. So here we are, just hand stitched that off camera and your scarf is complete. So then that can be worn doubled up like so on a nice winter's day, nice and cozy. Well done.